everybody. Welcome to another episode of Gridiron Headliners. I'm your host, Arush, and I'm with.
I'm Deepak.
I'm Rohit.
I'm Aditya.
So today we will be introducing another special guest, Ankit Rustagi. Ankit, would you like to say a few words?
Hello, guys. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure's all ours. So now today we're gonna start off with the Jamal Adams trade to Seattle. Jamal Adams was recently traded to the Seattle Seahawks for 2 firsts, a third, and safety Bradley McDougald. So, Ankit, who do you think won this trade and why?
I feel like Seattle's now a win now team, as they now have Quandre Diggs and Jamal Adams in their secondary. I felt like Seattle came out on top just because I feel like their secondary heavily improved, and now they're actually like a Super Bowl contending team.
I think personally that the Jets won because they got a lot of picks, and then they're kind of like a future team. They're not like a now team. I personally think that Russell Wilson will opt out for the season. When that happens, Jamal Adams trade will be completely worth it. So, in that perspective, Jets. Well, let me just start off with saying I was right about Jamal Adams going to Seattle. I did predict that.
Deepak, good job.
Yeah, that was
give you a shout out.
And then the second is I think that with all the picks, as soon as Jets gets new leadership, then the picks will be extremely useful, and then they'll be good once again. So right now Seattle wins, but like in the future, I think the Jets will definitely.
I think that, I agree with the point that, like, in the future, the Jets might win. But the thing is, the first-round picks, they will be late first-round picks. Because Seattle, like, every year for, like, the last 10 years, or ever since Russell Wilson has been their quarterback, has had, like, a late first-rounder, which they used to trade down and get more picks. So, like, the Jets' drafting strategy has been, like, hit or miss, and most of them have been misses. So I don't know how well the Jets are. I don't think the Jets will really draft that well, considering they have 2 late first rounders. Also, like in the past, Seattle has traded the first round picks away as leverage to get more later round picks, which is an area which they specialize in. But now I don't think they have that leverage anymore. So who knows? Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I think the Seattle Seahawks won the trade because whatever picks, the 2 first rounders that they gave up, whoever they would have drafted with those wouldn't probably amount to the value that they got in Jamal Adams. And specifically because they're in a win right now mode, especially in the next 2 years, Jamal Adams would probably bring more to the team than those 2 first round picks. And actually the Jets got a lot of value too because they got those 2 first round picks, and they're going to continue to rebuild. But yeah, they would have won this trade if they can consistently draft, but their history is a little sketchy and they can't draft consistently for their lives. So yeah, I think the Seahawks won this trade.
I think we also need to consider that there might not be a college football season next year. So the draft is going to be off tape, from pretty old tape basically. So the probability that a team picks a bust in like the first top 10 picks is pretty high, considering that you're going off old tape. So and also the Jets don't have a bright history with drafting good picks, and the good picks that they did draft, because the organization is dysfunctional, ended up leaving. So on paper, the Jets won the trade because they got a bunch of assets for a player that didn't really want to be there. But until they like hit on most of those picks and improve their team, I don't think you can call this like a win.
All right. I think that, like, one thing about the trade that was kind of like I think that was kind of unnecessary was trading Bradley McDougald. I mean, he's a pretty good safety. Although he's like 29, but then you have to think that he allowed less receptions in man coverage or in any coverage than Jamal Adams. Jamal Adams allowed 28 receptions, I believe, while McDougald only allowed 20. But then the thing is that, like, although you can say like McDougald, he played like the flats in like their zone scheme. I think Jamal Adams is going to have more man-to-man matches with like players like George Kittle, so it'll be harder for. I think since Kittle has a really good history with safeties, I think it would be harder for Adams to like adapt in a very competitive division with a really tough matchup right away.
No, I mean like I think Jamal Adams plays most of his snaps in the box, right? With like run support
Yeah,
and stuff.
mostly.
So that's probably why there's like a discrepancy in stats.
Yeah, and then also you could. I mean, he's also like really beneficial for Seattle's D line because
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
he has 6.5 sacks, so he has he adds like a bit of versatility to like rush concepts they could use.
No, I also wanted to point out that Jamal Adams, this might end up being a 2-year rental, depending on what Jamal Adams really wants. Because I feel like personally, in his heart, like he seems like he really wants to go to the Cowboys. Like even though he's like stunting and saying like, "Oh, I'm so happy I'm in Seattle," he seems like the type of dude like if something doesn't go properly or like something happens or like there's contract disputes, we might see another Jets 2.0 and Seattle might have just traded a bunch of these picks for no reason.
Yeah, and also like just to add on top of that, Jamal Adams has been known to have a bit of a diva attitude. So I don't know how well. So Rohit, how do you think that'll like mesh with Bobby Wagner and his leadership role?
It completely depends because if you watch him on social media, he seems to put on like a humble face. Like if you watched his interviews and stuff and his press conferences with Seattle, he said I might not even be a starter on this team, which is extremely humble for someone like Jamal Adams. And on the Jets, he was pretty clearly the best player on that defense. So I think he did have a right to criticize all those other players because there were reports coming out that the other players on that Jets defense just slacked off and didn't really work as hard as him. And so, I guess he does have a right to call them out on that. But now that he's with Seattle, they're known for their veterans and all that, and their tough defensive schemes. So I don't know if he's gonna act up because he's surrounded by a winning culture now. But it just depends on Jamal Adams, I guess.
Yeah. So wait, Ankit. So what do you think this trade leaves the Seahawks in like the standings perspective?
I mean, it definitely puts them up there in the NFC. I felt like before this trade, I felt like Seattle might have been aiming to tank, but I guess it wouldn't be as good as they were last year. I feel like with this Jamal Adams trade, I mean, you're really putting like a lot in your defense now. Your secondary's improved, asking a lot from just like as they sent I believe they sent 2 first round picks. So you're investing a lot into this guy, and you want to see some results now.
Yeah. Just like a quick question for Ankit. Like Jamal Adams was signed, and he really does improve their secondary. But do you think he really solves the problem in Seattle, which personally I think is the defensive and offensive line?
And as you brought up, I believe he had 6.5 sacks the past season. I felt like one of the weaknesses that Seattle's defense has would be their D-line because we traded Frank Clark to the Kansas City Chiefs just a year ago. And I feel like if you bring aggressive safety like Jamal Adams who can blitz and get to the quarterback, then I feel like it helps out with their pass defense.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, but the thing is that Jamal might be going up against one-on-one against George Kittle for like if he wants to get to Jimmy, that he's probably gonna have to like get through like George Kittle and all like other blocking tight ends. Like,
well, I think it depends on if Clowney comes back or not, because he can single-handedly, if you watch that Niners game, he can single-handedly change a game in favor of the Seahawks. But I don't know what he's doing. He's just waiting for so long, and then now there's reports of him going to the Niners. Which, if that does happen, the Niners are instant Super Bowl favorites. I think.
Well, we can't forget about like other teams which have really good rosters, like obviously Kansas City Chiefs, Baltimore Ravens, and New Orleans Saints. Even though I believe Drew Brees his arm does get tired towards the end of the season and into the playoffs. There are like the Super Bowl, winning a Super Bowl is like really hard, and I don't know if the Niners will get there because of the fierce competition in the NFC.
I mean, I still think they're definitely the favorites in the NFC West because Seattle didn't really address, even in the draft and free agency, they didn't really address their key needs, and they keep doing this offseason after offseason, where they've had horrible O lines, and people have been saying, imagine how Russ would do with an O line, imagine how Russ would do with an O line, and year after year, I don't know, they don't seem to address those key issues. And while it's true that Jamal Adams does help their pass rush, I still think it's so bad. It's probably one of the worst pass rushes in the league. And you're going up against a run-heavy 49ers team, a Rams team that does a lot of end-arounds and motions and all that. So I think
And
that
the
really...
And
And the
Kyler.
Cardinals,
Kyler.
Yeah,
Kyler
go ahead.
is a great guy.
Yeah, Kyler Murray's a mobile quarterback. So even though they did add Jamal Adams, that does improve their secondary. I still think it's not going to put them over the top in the sense that they're clear NFC West favorites now.
All right. So our next topic is going to be about opt-outs. So because of COVID-19, a lot of NFL players are planning to opt out for health concerns. So, Ankit, which team do you think is most affected by this?
I mean, based on the reports I've heard, I feel like the Patriots are most affected by this. I mean, they lost two veterans on their defense in Dante Hightower and Patrick Chung, who I feel like, Dante Hightower for sure is a playmaker, and I know that linebacker core just got a lot weaker with him being off the field.
Yeah, I mean, I also think the Patriots are the most affected because I think Dante Hightower, we really needed him this season because we lost Jamie Collins, Landon Roberts, and Kyle Van Noy. And the fact is, like, Dante Hightower can play both, like, inside linebacker and rush the passer. And I think him, Jamie Collins, Kyle Van Noy all accounted for, like, most of our pressures last year. So the fact that all three are now gone this year is quite concerning, especially since we don't really have any quality replacements other than like rookies like Josh Uche and Anthony Jennings. But I think rather than Patrick Chung, I think like the next biggest thing is the right tackle Marcus Cannon because especially with a new QB this season, I think the Patriots are going to be heavily focusing on giving the ball to Sony Michel, Rex Burkhead, and James White out of the backfield. So they're going to be focused on the run, and I think that right tackle position could also hurt them more than whatever Patrick Chung brings. Because they did draft Kyle Duggar and sign Adrian Phillips in the offseason.
Okay, wait. As a Patriots fan, I know that they don't really tank because they're known for winning. But would you like to see them, throw the season and draft like Trevor Lawrence or something next year to get a franchise quarterback, or do you want them to contend?
I want them to contend because I know even if we tank, we're still not going to be as bad as the Jets or like the Jaguars, for example. But rather than I actually like Justin Fields more than Trevor Lawrence. To be honest, that's just my perspective, my opinion.
So you would like to contend as hard as you can rather than like calculatedly.
Yeah, because we signed Cam Newton.
Next.
If we didn't sign Cam, then I think
you would tank.
Then there's a reason to tank, right?
Yeah.
But like I think once you sign him, you're kind of committed to this year, at least for that 1 year. Yeah,
that makes sense.
Also, I think like another team that is in danger is the Green Bay Packers. I mean, they didn't draft any wide receivers in the draft, like all 7 rounds. No wide receiver was selected. Instead, they drafted a quarterback and a running back with their first two rounds. And they did sign Devin Funchess, who is a veteran wide receiver, like this offseason. and he would be like their big body receiver on like the outside, maybe a deep threat. I'm not sure. So I think that they're in danger because now they don't have any weapons other than Devontae Adams on their offense. Like they traded Jimmy Graham as well, and he was like okay, but now he's gone too. So they have no one except Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones.
Yeah,
I mean, that kind of leaves them.
No,
that
go
kind of
on.
leaves them in the situation they were in last year. I mean, there wasn't really any weapon other than Devontae Adams, and they still managed to reach the NFC Championship. Of course, they got demolished by the 49ers, but that's a different story.
But
Still made it that far.
Yeah, the thing is, they made it that far, and they still didn't. Like, they were one game away. They could have at least, like, done more in the offseason, or like drafted someone.
yeah,
To be fair, the Packers had a lot of things go their way in the regular season to get that 13-3 record and to be able to play the Niners. They had to go against the Seahawks, who had, I think, their sixth string running back and a Marshawn Lynch who came off the couch, and they still almost lost that game. So I feel like the Packers were probably one of the most overrated, if you could call it, 13-3 team last year.
but the thing is that like they had to play the NFC East in their
Yeah, that's true.
like,
Yeah.
they had to play the NFC East and the AFC West in their regular season schedule. The NFC East has two rebuilding teams, one underachieving team, and one injury riddled team. So, and then they still lost to the injury riddled team though, which is kind of surprising. And then in the AFC West, they beat everyone except for the I think they lost to the Chargers. Yeah. So like if you looked at it, they weren't, and they played the Chiefs without Mahomes, so that's not really saying much that they won. And then so like if you look at their record and like their track record, like playing in easy divisions, and they still lose one game like in each of the divisions, even though it's like the easiest division in the league, and they have schedule breaks.
Yeah, I feel like Green Bay was kind of carried by their defense and run game. Not necessarily carried, but definitely the improved defense helped out their record. I feel like they're going to regress next year, personally, because I just feel like Rodgers is definitely out of his prime, and they don't really have much weapons, as you guys said.
Oh, what do you guys think about LaShawn McCoy on the Buccaneers?
I think Buccaneers will be solid playoff contenders this year. So I think that and with Tom Brady, I think they'll be like the fifth seed, but I think they're gonna beat whoever the NFC East. I think they're gonna beat those who are in the division and then advance to the divisional round.
Okay, let me tell you something. LaShawn McCoy is old now. He had 4.6 yards per carry last year, which is decent, but he had,
It's hella good.
he had less than 500 yards.
Yeah, just to add on to Arush, I mean, heading into Kansas City, everyone is like, oh, he's reunited with Andy Reid, he's going to have a breakout season. But, like, towards the end of the season, once they got into the playoffs, he became a healthy scratch. It just felt like he wasn't very effective, and that might be the role he plays in Tampa Bay as more of a veteran off the field.
Also, Ronald Jones III, who was their other running back, hasn't really panned out. Like he was decent in fantasy for like a couple games, but then other than those like anomalies, he wasn't spectacular. He wasn't like the player that the the Bucks hoped for. So, the Bucks running game is like the most in question to me right now.
What do you guys think of the Bucks as a whole? Do you think it's going to be a Browns 2.0, or are they going to be serious contenders in the NFC?
Browns 2.0. Well,
I mean, they have Brady though, so I don't really know if
You've watched.
I hope they're.
The one thing I know is to never doubt Brady. That guy will always find a way.
But he's not with Belichick anymore.
Exactly, because the thing is that like Brady and Belichick, they both supported each other. That's the thing about like their relationship that made them so good. They both put each other in situations to succeed. Like Brady, like he like put Belichick in some situation. or Belichick put Brady in some situations to succeed, like in that Super Bowl, and like the first couple of Super Bowls that Brady played in. Belichick like made him like put him in like solid situations, but like towards the end, I think they started. It was like more even, so I think Brady and Belichick like both contributed to New England's success.
I don't know. I feel like his transition to Bucks isn't as bad. I mean, like, no ways Bruce Arians as good as Belichick, but he's also a respectable quarterback. I mean, a respectable coach. Has shown like how he was coaching in Arizona when he had Carson Palmer. They were able to do some damage in the NFC West.
I mean, to be fair, Carson Palmer, I wouldn't say he was like completely washed, but he had some sort of, he had a renaissance. Yeah, that's true. But I don't think he was complete. He wasn't as washed as, he wasn't as old as Brady, and he wasn't complete like washed up. So I don't think Brady was on the same like skill. Brady now was was Carson Palmer in like 2015, 2016. When did they go like 13-3? I think 2015. Yeah. I think this is a good place to end it for now. So we'll see you next time on Gridiron Headliners.
It's not a game, it's a rich thing.